It's a racist massacre. It terrorized the community of Buffalo. It raises new questions about the hate, the vitriol, the racism that radicalizes people, as we've been covering tonight. And that's just about the killer, the motive, and the shooting. Then there are the separate questions about the police response here and the broader approach of law enforcement, because as this horrific news was even first breaking, it became clear police were dealing with an active shooter, a mass killer allegedly, armed for a major firefight.
A gunman in upstate New York opened fire at a Tops supermarket store, killing 10 people.
The heavily armed killer, wearing body armor and a tactical helmet, live-streamed the massacre.
Cornered by police, authorities convinced him to drop the gun he had pointed at his neck.
White male suspect is now in custody, and that suspect wanted to kill many more to continue his hate-fueled rampage.
That's some of what the authorities confronted, and yet police never fired a shot at him. When they arrived, police didn't know if he would shoot at them or others or what his next plans were. They just knew he was the suspect in killing more people in a day than anyone this year. And yet, the guy walked out of the store, as a witness recounted. The cops were just screaming at him, and he just stood there. It was like he wanted them to shoot him. And that was the police restraint leading to some of this scene you see captured here. The suspect arrested peacefully, no shots fired after he allegedly killed 10 people, which the police chief touted.
He put the gun underneath his chin, and our officers very courageously used every de-escalation tactic that they could. They talked him down. It was a pretty one-sided fight there with the armor that he had, and they were able to safely take him into custody with no further shots being fired. It was just a tremendous act of bravery.
There was certainly bravery on display this weekend by civilians and officers facing down the emergency. It's good no more shots had to be fired. But there was also a stark double standard in policing here, because when faced with the deadliest shooting of the year and a suspect who is literally still holding a gun used to allegedly kill 10 innocent people, well, at that moment, police were at the highest possible legal threshold for firing a weapon, for using deadly force. And they didn't. By contrast, 2 months ago, Buffalo police used deadly force on Dominic Thomas, shooting him when he had a mental health episode and was reportedly seen with a knife. Last year, Buffalo police used deadly force to shoot at Willie Henley, a 60-year-old homeless man who was accused of swinging a bat at an officer. Neither of those people had a gun. Neither were accused of killing a person, let alone 10 people moments before. But they were both black. And for all the talk about the danger facing police or the facts of a given incident, which do matter, the data still shows that race drives different outcomes here. Discrimination and racism shape police interactions, sometimes more than an active mass shooter, which is, of course, the deadliest emergency police ever face. Dangerous to the people police serve, dangerous to the police themselves. And yet you have this drastically different use of force, and it's long been documented. Police use more force and deadly force on black people, who are 3 times as likely to be killed by police. Now, the Buffalo police just de-escalated an arrest of an armed, alleged mass shooter. And data shows police frequently escalate interactions with black people over non-violent infractions. Over 400 people killed in traffic stops who were unarmed, according to a recent Times report on 5 years of data, and that disproportionately resulted in the killing of minorities by police. Anyone familiar with the news knows what this looks like. It was a traffic stop over a brake light that didn't work, which led to South Carolina police shooting Walter Scott in the back, killing him. Unlike this Buffalo shooter, Mr. Scott was unarmed and fleeing, not holding a gun at a murder scene. Jacob Blake was walking away from police, not seen holding a weapon at the time when police shot him 7 times in the back. That left him partially paralyzed. Authorities say they later found a knife on the scene. Or there's a case when police shot an unarmed 22-year-old, Stephon Clark, 8 times, killing him. Now, that was investigated, but the prosecutor cleared the officers with a sweeping defense, saying the police wrongly believed this individual's cell phone was a gun. So that made it legally okay to kill him.
All of those statements that those officers made within the seconds after the shooting support the belief that they honestly, without hesitation, believed he had a gun. We will not charge these officers with any criminal liability related to the shooting death and the use of force on Stephon Clark.
This happens all the time. So the system says out loud police can kill that unarmed person because police had a mistaken fear of him. Stack that against the current Buffalo police explanation of their restraint against an actually armed suspect standing outside of a mass shooting. You know, last month, it was another traffic stop which led police to shoot 26-year-old Patrick Lyoya in the back of the head after a struggle ensued pursuant to a traffic stop. You may recall we covered this at the time. The same pattern. It was a stop over a nonviolent allegation. The officer escalated it. Then there was a struggle ensuing over the taser. The officer pinned the suspect and then quickly killed him.
Let go of the taser!
No, he ain't got no taser. I see that.
Let go of the taser!
6010, how many cars you got going?
Drop the taser!
Everyone.
This is an all too common way the police use force. And we're talking about it for a reason on the news tonight. This is known to anyone with a reason to know. People in legal and media circles who interact with these basic facts. Experts who track this data. I quoted some of the data earlier. And you know who else knows? People who live in communities who are policed like this every single day. That is the background for what we then live through as a nation, that infamous, slow, brutal police murder of George Floyd, who was unarmed. It occurred pursuant to an arrest over a nonviolent petty property crime. That was news, but it was not new. And the Americans who were scandalized or shocked by that type of police force had not been paying attention or not wanted to. For all the outrage over that particular killing, the police use of deadly force continues at the same pace, the same rate in America this year, a steady line as you see there from the Washington Post count. So after an alleged racist killing spree directed at black Americans this weekend, the unusual restraint in peacefully apprehending this apparently active shooter holding a gun when they got there is very notable. Just as it was when police peacefully apprehended Dylan Roof after he murdered 9 people in a violent hate crime in South Carolina. The Buffalo shooter will get his day in court. But this double standard runs from the government to the discourse we have, which shapes how we and jurors think about these cases. When police killed an unarmed black 18-year-old, Michael Brown, which set off those Ferguson protests in the Obama era, the nonpartisan, objective Associated Press reported he was a man posing that threat. He was unarmed. The AP identifies this same aged 18-year-old suspect as a teenager. We should note, after criticism, the AP later updated that reporting over the weekend, but the reference to a white teenager taking this action was widely distributed. And while that police chief I showed you said the suspect was pointing this gun at himself, that accepts this alleged killer's claim that he's suddenly less dangerous, that he has an intent to stop killing others and perhaps kill himself, which he didn't. That was cited as a reason for the de-escalation. And it's vital to confront how that relates to the double standard, because police took the alleged killer at his word. They believed he would just stop shooting at people. They took the word of the gunman at the murder scene, which is the opposite of what the police and prosecutors did in some of these other cases I'm telling you about. They would not take the word of an unarmed black man pursued for a non-violent infraction in the first place. Instead, the system said in that case of Stephon Clark, whether we remember him or not, the system said, well, if police wrongly think that somebody has a gun, somebody like him has a gun, well, then the police can shoot on sight.
All of those statements that those officers made within the seconds after the shooting support the belief that they honestly, without hesitation, believed he had a gun.
That's what they believed. It's all out in the open. This is the time to deal with it. And the point here is not that American police should use even more force at the wrong time. It is not that they should somehow, quote, err on the side of killing any person who might be safely dealt with nonviolently. Safely for the person, safely for the police, safely for the community. That's not the point. Many experts and civil rights leaders have made the core point before, saying they are not asking police to kill other suspects the way the police are killing unarmed black Americans. They're asking police to stop killing unarmed black Americans. And when that seemingly baseline, simple plea is made, well, we've all been doing this together. We've been living through this together. You know what happens. It's met with a litany of legal justifications and factual hypotheticals. The police maybe believed that the unarmed person was armed. I just showed you that example. Or they believed he was grabbing a taser in a way that would flip the whole conflict around. Or they believed he might pose a future threat. Or they believed he might get in his nearby car with a weapon that was conveniently waiting there and then turn that while outnumbered by the police. It's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo. And so the point here is not to rerun the play over the weekend. The point is to understand this weekend's facts in a scene like that, with the deadliest shooting of the year and a peaceful apprehension, gives lie and shreds so many of the claims we have been hearing that relate to so many other innocent lives. In this case, innocent black lives.